Welcome. I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore ideas and concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. Pause the video right now so that you can grab a notepad and a pen and then make a commitment to yourself, a commitment to your business and to its stakeholders that you'll jot down something today that you will implement in your business today. It's all about action. Implementation is the key. And that is the overarching theme of our video today, and our concept that we'll be discussing is implementation. How do I know what I should be implementing? There's so many things I can do. In one other video, I commented that you could probably come up with 50 things that you could improve in your business, and that it's a very empowering and liberating feeling to know that there are many things that you can improve. Conversely, you might experience a lot of anxiety if you have nothing that you can think of in terms of ideas to improve. If your business is not growing or is not growing as fast or as much as you would like, and you can't think of what you can do better, that can cause a little bit of panic. So it's always a good thing to look for areas in your business that are in need of improvement. You've got to back up and you've got to look at your business from, as they say, the 30,000 foot level, and maybe even look at it through the eyes of your other stakeholders, especially your customers, and ascertain what are the things that you can do to improve the value that you offer to your customers, and where can you begin in terms of implementing change, positive change, and improvement in your business. Now, we've said in the past that you can use report cards for this, and your financial statement. You can spot areas and opportunities for improvement. And in your report card, you should have data, good measurements, performance analytics that should guide you in the right direction. We've also said that you can follow along with the MUDA concept, the waste, and look at the 7 or in fact 8 forms of waste and determine whether or not there are areas in your business that are more wasteful that you can apply improvement. So those are tips and strategies and tools that you can use. But recently I said that one of the most important things you can do is implement those areas of greatest improvement. And it occurred to me that that may not be obvious to you. It requires a little analysis in your business. Doesn't matter if you notice that there's something that's very wasteful in your business. Of course that matters, but in and of itself, that's not enough. You have to, there's probably many areas that are wasteful. So you have to have some way of measuring which are the areas that you should go to first. And the same thing with your report cards. You might have 3 or 5 or whatever number of areas, performance analytics, that are underperforming, that are you're not on the right trajectory. And so you want to improve those, but which ones first? So what I'm going to do is share some visual aids with you today. There are multimedia presentation tools today that can help you, and you can replicate these concepts for analyzing and determining which are the areas that you should duplicate first in your business. So let's bring up onto the screen some tools that will help you. I've got 2 different ones that will give you an idea of where should you go first. What you should see on your screen in front of you right now is a bit of a chart, or what I call an implementation plotting graph, that will assist you when you have ideas. So you may use your report card, you may use the concept of waste or MUDA to identify areas, but you also may just be sitting there and have ideas. Maybe you're going to pause the video right now because you have an idea. You might be a very creative person who's always filled with new ideas of how you might improve your business. That's a really good thing, and most entrepreneurs are quite creative and generate a lot of ideas, but you don't want to get sidetracked from those areas that can make the biggest impact. And so a tool like what you see on your screen in front of you right now can help. And you can see, if you just follow along with me here, I've got on the axes, one of them titled potential benefit. And I've got these measured in terms of dollar figures. So you might say that the potential benefit of a particular idea, or the potential benefit of eliminating a particular type of waste, or a particular performance metric that you've decided requires work is greater or larger. And you might be able to actually quantify that in some way, and that's good. And then on the other axes, I've got the practicality or ease of implementation, or the required investment of resources. So I like to convert things to financial metrics because it makes it pretty straightforward. Now, anytime you are requiring the investment of resources, you should be able to quantify those financially. So if it's just a matter of your time is a great resource, of course. It's very restricted and finite, and there is a value to it. So you should be able to put a dollar figure on that. So take a look at whatever resource that you need to implement, whether it's time or money or something else, or even your people's time, and try to quantify it in terms of dollar figures. And then when you're considering your idea, also try to quantify what is the upside potential of this idea. If it works as planned, can we do a little bit of analysis and project what impact it may have on our sales and revenue and our profit? And then what you can do is you can plot this on the graph. So, I mean, I've just got these small, medium, and large dollar figures, dollar signs on here. You could, of course, put figures on there that represent the amount of investment required on the X, or on the Y axis, you could put the amount of dollar figures that the upside potential analysis and projections led you to conclude is likely. And then you can see I've plotted. So I've got, 2 or 3 ideas plotted here, and we could make up some ideas that would be representative on this chart here. So you can see that the ideas up in this first quadrant in the upper left-hand corner are high priority ideas. I've just put that on there because these are ideas that have a really low required investment of resources. So they would be considered very easy to implement, very practical to implement, because they're on this side of that range. And then they're also on the high side of the range for potential upside. So clearly, if you've got a very high upside potential to an idea and a great ease of implementation, a low investment required, those are the areas you should start. That's why this concept of determining where I should go and what things should I do first in terms of implementing ideas in my business should start with an analysis of that idea, convert the upside potential to a projected financial windfall, or not windfall, but a financial gain and upside for your business, and also convert the resources, if they're not obvious to you of what the financial investment is, convert those and then plot them. Down in this quadrant right below that, these are ideas that are on the lower side of things. They're on the sort of the lower side of the mid-range of ease of implementation, and they have a very low required or lower required investment, but they don't have as much upside potential. So you can see in the ideas of where we've plotted them. And these are things, because they're more easily implemented, especially this one over here, this is a great idea to implement because there is upside potential. If there's going to be upside potential and it's very easy to implement something, that's something you're going to want to do. This one is not much more difficult, but it's got way higher upside potential. So that's the first one we're going to implement. This one here is getting to the mid-range and it's pretty high. So you're looking at this and ascertaining where you should go. Some of the ideas plotted over here have much higher cost of implementation. They're not nearly as practical to implement. They may require a lot more time, a lot more, maybe you have to bring in external expertise, outside assistance. You have to invest more money and time. Whatever it is, they're less practical to implement, but they still have a relatively high upside potential. And then in this quadrant over here, we have ideas that we have projected that are going to be more expensive in terms of resource expenditure to implement, and they don't have as great an upside potential to them. So there's diminishing returns with these ideas here. That doesn't mean you will never implement these ideas. If you had no ideas that fell in any of the other quadrants, then of course you would want to implement this one first, because it's got pretty good potential. It's still on the lower side of things, but relative to this idea, which has lower potential but higher cost, this would be the better one. So anything going up in the northwestern side of things is the place to start. And then as you go to the southeastern part of a graph like this, these are ideas that you would want to implement last. And that's a great way to visualize ideas. Plot them. Whenever you have an idea, just pull out a little example of a chart like this and plot it. And so let's just put some examples to these. So something that has very high upside potential and very high investment of resources, low practicality, low ease of implementation could be an example of buying a new piece of very expensive equipment. So perhaps your business is operating on some equipment that's starting to get long in the tooth, it's a little older, and you realize that if you had invested, or if you were to invest in the latest and greatest equipment in your industry, that you would get a really high upside potential, but it's very expensive. Maybe you don't have the immediate reserves in your capital funds to be able to cover that. It might mean borrowing or something like that. And so that is the type of ideas you would find over here. Down here, you might find something that is just a simple process improvement, and it really doesn't require hardly any resources, and it's just a matter of training your internal team, and you project that this will have a great upside potential. So that's something that you could implement right away. Those are some examples in this kind of chart. And I hope you find that helpful, but I've got another one, and one that we utilize at BMI for our IT and especially our software and operating system, coding development, programming ideas. So I'll share that one now. Okay, on the screen now what you have is more of a matrix or a spreadsheet. And this is more a mathematical approach instead of a visual cue. So depending on your personality and the way you learn best, or the way you like to implement things, you can use this strategy as well. And you can see we kind of have the same ideas here. We assign a score related to upside potential, that potential benefit. And the higher the score, the higher the benefit. And then the investment necessary is in the next column over here. And a low investment would be represented by a low number, and a high investment would be a high number. You could certainly apply dollar figures to this. Or you could do that somewhere else and have a range, and then put those and have these cells populated. We can make this spreadsheet or this tool as advanced as you want. And then over here, I've got an implementation score, which is just essentially what it's doing is multiplying these two together with an inverse relationship assigned to the second one. Okay, so the formula would be A times parenthesis 1 divided by B, whatever cell number these are. And that would give you the score over here. And then all we've done is we've sorted column C in terms of the score descending order from the most practical or the best ideas to implement first. And then what you do is you just plug away at these and start at the top and work your way down. So in the examples here, we have something that has a 10, a score of 10 out of 10, let's call it 10 out of 10 for upside potentials, very high upside potential. And the investment necessary is very low, so its implementation score is 10. Anything with a score of 10 out of 10 is something you should implement immediately. You should get to work on that and start put some racy assignments together, responsibility, accountability, consulted and informed. Use that tool. If you don't know, then reach out to us or watch the video that we've produced on that. And then some other examples here. An upside potential still fairly high, 7 out of 10. Investment very low, 2 out of 10, and it has a score of 3.5, much less than this one. So clearly we're going to implement this idea first, but this is still second in terms of the ideas the hypothetical ideas that we've plotted on here. And going down the list, you can see this one has an upside potential very high of 10 and an investment also very high. So that might be that equipment idea that we talked about. And it's got an implementation score of 1, which is less than the one above it, which has half the investment necessary, half the investment score. So it has double the implementation score. And then just going down the list, there's all sorts of examples. This one doesn't have very high upside potential, and it's got very low investment. So it's still something that, is mid-range in terms of where you'd want to implement it. Going down here, we have something with a very low upside potential score, and its investment is quite high. So it is a 0.1 on the implementation score. And so it would be like 100 times less valuable according to this scoring system than the very first one on the list. So this is a great way. I find this really helpful, and you can assign weightings to it. If your particular circumstances for your business was such that you have very low operating capital, then in terms of the weighting you would assign to upside potential and investment, you might want to have a mathematical formula that scores things a little bit lower if they require much investment. And you can also look at your investment when you do your analysis and give it a score. If it requires some of your time and you have time to spare, then you should do that. You can weight that a little heavier, or you should give it less of a penalty, so to speak. Without working the math out in front of you on the screen here, hopefully you can follow along what I'm saying here. Conversely, if you're a company that has a lot of operating capital, you've got a lot of cash in the bank, I think Apple is the most notorious or the most famous company for being cash rich. They have a lot of funds available for R&D and to develop new products and new value for their customers. And so they might want to weight ideas that are investment heavy a little bit in such a way that still allows them to score higher on their list. So you have to take a look when you're using a mathematical formula like this. You have to take a look at what kind of business you have. And I've just assigned in the simple math for this example, I've assigned equal weighting to the investment necessary and the upside potential. But you can change that in terms of the mathematical formula that spits out the implementation score. And then as long as you've sorted them in a descending order from best thing to implement first down to least, your math will work out, and you can go and find something on the chart that tells you. So whether you like this one or plotting or more visual, I think these are great tools to use for you to ascertain where should you go first with your time. So that's where we'll leave it today. I hope you got something out of this. And if you have a different way of deciding which ideas you should implement first, then I'd love it if you'd share those with us in the comments. If you'd like me to develop another video or elaborate on a concept we've discussed today or in the past, please put something in the comments. We need to learn from one another, and it's okay to have healthy debate and disagreement. That's what business is all about. Whatever we do, let's make sure that we implement something that affects positive change in our business today. Perpetual refinement.